How can you show and count 6 objects?
Hi there. It sure is windy today. And look, someone's flying kites in the sky. How many kites do you see? Click on the kite to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow! There are 5 kites in the sky. But wait, here comes another. Now how many kites do you think there are? It's surely more than 5.
Marcy has some bowling pins. She wants to count them, so she arranges them in this set. How many bowling pins does Marcy have? You can use a 10 frame in counters. A 10 frame looks like 2 5 frames put together. Now use counters to count the bowling pins. Let's put 1 counter on each bowling pin as we count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now move the counters to the 10 frame. Click the first counter to start.
So we're going to pay attention to see how they form the number 6. We're going to show the number 6 using a 10 frame. So pay very close attention to this. This is very, very important.
Click the next counter.
So the first goes in the first box at the top, all the way to the corner, to the left.
Click the next counter.
And then you keep going in order.
Keep clicking.
And you keep filling up the 10 frame.
Click the next counter. Click one more time.
So the one thing that I wanted to point out, boys and girls, whenever you fill in your 10 frame, always fill the top row first. The whole top row has to be completed before you can move down to the bottom row, okay?
The last counter goes in the first box in the bottom row of the 10 frame. Let's count the counters in the top row of our 10 frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there is 1 counter in the bottom row. How many counters are in the 10 frame? There are 6 counters. Each counter stands for 1 bowling pin. Marcy has 6 bowling pins. You can use the 10 frame to count these hats. You can use counters too. Let's put a counter on the first hat and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now move the counters to the 10 frame. Start by clicking the hat. Click the next hat.
So when we start filling in our 10 frame, always start in the top row in the first box. And then you keep filling in the boxes right next to each other.
Click the next hat. Keep clicking.
Miss Castro, is this the right book?
Abraham, give me one moment. Please don't unmute yourself because I'm just trying to get through teaching the lesson, okay? Thank you.
The next counter goes in the last space of the top row.
So very important to remember, boys and girls, always fill in the top row first.
1 more counter. Put it in the first space of the bottom row.
So now that the top row has been filled up, now you can go down to the bottom row. And when you go down to the bottom row, you go again to the very first box.
Now the 10 frame shows all the counters. Let's count the top row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When the top row is filled, it means there are 5 counters. There is 1 counter in the bottom row. 1 more than 5 is 6. There are 6 counters in the 10 frame. Each counter stands for 1 hat. There are 6 hats.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to share with you our presentation now. So today we're working on lesson 3.1. Abraham, you want to make sure that the book that you have looks like this, and it's going to say chapter 3 at the top, okay? Today we're learning how to show and count 6 objects. So today's lesson, I'm going to upload it to our YouTube channel, the studio YouTube. We just saw today's lesson. So today we're working on page 119. That's the first page that we are on, 119. You're going to see a purple page with some yellow tickets and the 10 frame right below it. So this is the page that we are working on today. This is the first page. So now what Miss Castro is going to do, I'm going to share my screen with you so I can show you how to do this first page. So let me share the whiteboard. Okay, so I'm going to illustrate the 10 frame for this first page. Make sure it's black. Here we go. So I'm going to form the lines to make the 10 frame. It's already in your book. I'm just showing you here on the screen since Miss Castro does not have access to the smartboard. So I have to form it here on this whiteboard, which you're watching on your screen right now. Okay, so they want us to count the yellow tickets, and then after we count the yellow tickets, we have to fill in the 10 frame to show how many yellow tickets we have. So let me quickly form the yellow tickets. Okay, so the yellow tickets are right above the 10 frame. So what I'm going to do now, and what you're going to do, boys and girls, is you're going to count and label the tickets first. So let's start with the top left ticket. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Miss Castro counted and labeled 6 yellow tickets. So you boys and girls should have done the same as well in your math books, okay? So now that we've counted 6 tickets, we're going to label the 10 frame to show that we have 6 tickets. So for the first ticket, I have to draw 1 circle. There's 1. So now I'm going to do the next ticket, which is 2. I'm going to do the next ticket, which is 3. So as you're illustrating your circles, you're also labeling them at the same time. Next, we have 4. Next, we have 5. And like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you fill in the top row of the 10 frame before you even go down to the bottom row. Next, we have 6. And 6 is where I'm going to stop because that's what I counted for the tickets. I counted 6 yellow tickets. So for the 6 yellow tickets, I illustrated 6 circles and I labeled them. Okay, so this was from page 119. That was the first page. So now we're going to turn to the next page, which is page 120. So you're going to see the cars and you're going to see a carnival, a fair. That's the page that we're going to work on next. So I'm going to open up my whiteboard again. I'm going to clear my drawings here. Now I'm going to illustrate what they have there on your page. that. Okay, so here they didn't really make a 10 frame because they made lines to show you like if it's a parking lot where the cars have to park their where they have to go into a parking spot. That's why the yellow lines represent where a car is going to be parked. So the cars are all the way on the left-hand side. You have the red car, then you have the green car, then you have another red car, then you have a purple car, next is a yellow car, and last we have a blue car. So they want us to count to see how many cars we have, and then we have to put them in a parking spot, which would be the 10 frame. So we're going to count and label first the cars, and then we're going to put them in the parking lot. So the first red car, we're going to label it with the number 1. We're counting to see how many cars we have. The green car, that's number 2. The other red car in the middle is number 3. The purple car beneath it, that's number 4. The yellow car beneath that is number 5. And the blue car, which is the last car below, is number 6. So we just counted and labeled all of the cars, and we counted and labeled 6 cars. So now we're going to show those 6 cars going into the parking lot. So for the first red car, we're going to illustrate 1 circle and label it with the number 1. Right next to it, that's where the green car would go. So we're going to illustrate a circle and we're going to label it with number 2. Next to that parking spot, we are going to illustrate another circle and label it with the number 3. Next to that parking spot is where the purple car would go, which would be a circle with the number 4. Next to that parking spot is where the yellow car would go, which is the number 5. Now, since the top row of the parking spots are all taken up, to park the 6th and last car, we have to go down to the bottom row, and we're going to go to the first parking spot. So that's right underneath the number 1. So that's where we're going to illustrate the last circle, and you're going to form the number 6 in that circle. Okay, so I'm going to leave my screen up for you for a few moments, and then we're going to work on the next page. All right, so the next part is the fun part. It might look like a lot of work. Today's the first day that we're working on it, boys and girls, so don't get too frustrated. It's just going to take a little more practice for us, learning a little bit more about the 10 frames. And the great thing is that we work with the 10 frames every morning when we count to see how many days we're in school. So I'm going to go back to that presentation. So the next page looks like this. It's page 121. You're going to see an empty 10 frame with the number 6, and you're going to see 4 rows of yellow circles and red circles. So we're going to work on that page next. I'm going to go back to my whiteboard. I'm going to clear that page. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to form the 10 frame that's up at the top. So that way you can follow along with me. And then I'm going to teach you what we're going to do here. So I'm just copying exactly what we have on page 121. So that way we can start working on that page. So there's a sight word in our math books, and the sight word that they have on that page is the sight word and. So that means we're going to have two groups, one group of red and one group of yellow. Okay, so looking at this page, boys and girls, first of all, the 10 frame is empty. So what we're going to do is, next to that 10 frame, they have a number there for us. That's the number 6. So what you're going to do first is you're going to trace the number 6 with your pencil, and then we're going to form the number 6 in the 10 frame. So go ahead and trace the number 6 that's on the line. Follow the dotted lines, and then we're going to form the number 6 in the 10 frame to show 6. So here is 1. Next to that, 2. Next to that, 3. Next to that, 4. Next to that, 5. So now we just filled in the whole top row. So now that the whole top row is complete, we're going to go down to the next row. Right underneath the number 1, the number 6. Okay. So now, boys and girls, they want us to form the number 6 using red and yellow. So I'm going to show you a different Google slide. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to form the number 6 using yellow and red counters. So first they want red. So this is what I'm going to show you. For red, you're going to, now if you don't have, which I'm pretty sure you might not, if you don't have red and yellow counters at home, feel free to use any other object that you might have at home. Usually coins work good, money coins, or if you have like dry beans, like the dry habichuelas, you can use that as well. So what Miss Castro is showing you, boys and girls, is one way to make 6, okay? So one way to make 6, I'm going to put 1 red in the first box, so that's 1, and the rest I'm going to make yellow. And I'm going to count until the number 6. So that's 1 red, then we have 2 in the next box, then we have 3, 4, 5, 6. So one way of making the number 6 using red and yellow is by having 1 red, and let's count the yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yellow. So let's go back to our work. So next to the red, we're going to write 1 because we had 1 red, and then we had 5 yellow. So you're going to write the number 5 next to the yellow. Okay. So that's one way of forming the number 6 using red and yellow counters. You have 1 red and 5 yellow. But there's other ways of showing that number 6. So I'm going to share my screen with you once more. So look what I do. I'm going to take out the first yellow counter. I'm going to put it back. I'm going to switch that color. So instead of it being yellow, I'm going to make it red. So now we're going to count to see how many red we have and how many yellow we have. For red, I'm counting 1, 2, so that's 2 red. And now I'm going to count the yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. That's another way to make the number 6. So on the next line, we're going to fill in the numbers 2 for red and 4 for yellow. So let's go back to our whiteboard. So 2 red and 4 yellow. So that's another way to form the number 6 using red and yellow counters. There's other ways of doing the number 6. So I'm going to go back to my tens frame. Now watch what I do. I'm going to get rid of the first yellow counter that I have. I'm putting it back. And now I'm going to change that to the color red. So now I have 1, 2, 3 red and 1, 2, 3 yellow. So another way of making 6 is by having 3 red and 3 yellow. So on the next line, we're going to put 3 for the red and 3 for the yellow. Okay. And now they want us to show one more way of forming the number 6 using red and yellow counters. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you once more. So now watch what I do, boys and girls. I'm going to get rid of the first yellow counter. I'm putting it back. And now I'm going to change it so it's the color red. Look at that. Now we're going to count how many red we have and how many yellow we have. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 red. And for the yellow, I'm counting 1, 2 yellow. So I have 4 red and 2 yellow, which gives us the number 6. So I'm going to go back to my board. And I'm going to fill in the last line. 4 red, 2 yellow. Now again, boys and girls, I know this is the very first time that we're doing this. It takes a lot of practice to really understand how to form the numbers, because we're going to start doing this with the rest of the numbers that we're going to learn. So again, if you don't have red or yellow counters, maybe you have the math cubes you can use. Or if you don't have that available, then you can simply use coins, different color. Like you can use the penny for one color and the nickel for another color. Or if you don't have that around, you can also use dry food, dry beans. The different color, you could use a red dry bean and then the black dry bean if you have available. So you can use that as well. Okay. So I'm going to share with you today's work on our Google Classroom. So for today, your math work is lesson 3.1. You're going to be working on page 123. You're going to think of ways to form the number 6. So Ms. Kasha just showed you how to form the number 6 in different ways with red and yellow counters. Those are the circles, okay? So you have that page to work on, 123, and on the back page 124. Okay, so that is today's work.